Okay. All right. I think we're about to go live. Are we?
Yeah.
We're live already, or we're about to go live?
We're going live.
We're in the middle of going live.
It's not an instant.
We're in the middle of the transition period. Bein Hashmoshes.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think we're live now.
We are live now, you think? All right. So, we are live. Welcome back to another week of YTD, Yeshiva Temimei Darech here in the holy city of Tzfat. You out there get the privilege and the honor, which is actually our honor as well, to participate in a Talmudic class all the way from the holy city of Tzfat in Israel, in the north of Israel. All right, if we stop in the middle of this class and run, it... Okay, hold on. You're on? You have to re-go on. Come on, go quick. That's it. Here we come. We're on? We're on. Okay. So, do I have to repeat everything I said till now? I probably do, because I don't know if they're on or they're not on. No one was on. Okay, so then we definitely have to repeat what we were saying before. And, what? Okay, so first of all, welcome back to the class in YTD. We are Yeshiva Temimei Darech in the holy city of Tzfat in northern Israel. Unfortunately, right now, there is a bit of a threat from some interesting folks that are about 7 miles, 12 kilometers away from us, that they like shooting bombs at us. So if in the middle of the class we all get up and run, there's only one reason for that, is because we heard a big alarm telling us that we have to run to the shelters. But until that happens, we're on and we're teaching and we're learning.
We're on.
Okay? And we're about to I hope, where's our dirtball friend? Where's dirtball friend?
He's been missing, Rabbi.
He's missing. He was here. Okay, anyways. Before we begin, I want to remind everybody that once we get involved in the actual Talmudic study, people very often, they get confused and they get in their minds and they get all, their whole brains are like, yeah, and then they forget the most important thing that they should be doing, which is, what's the most important thing they should do right now?
Study Torah.
No, that too, they should study Torah. What else? Reading inside. If they have a Gemara, they should be reading inside together with us. And what else should they do? They should subscribe to the channel. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe and then the bell. This way you will always be notified every single time that we are streaming. And you'll also be able to see when we had an old video that goes up. If we streamed it before, you can also follow that as well. Hold on, I just want to see over here a second. There we go. Okay. Anyways, back to what we were saying is, yes, subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, share it with all your friends, all your neighbors, all your groups. And if you're, where else? We're Kick or Twitch. Just kick and twitch it around. That's it. That's it. And where do we get our what's it called? If somebody sends a message. If somebody sends
I'll put it up.
Okay, if somebody wants to participate in this class with a comment, a question, etc., you're more than welcome to do so. The way to do it is very simple. You just put a comment. If you're on YouTube, you put a comment on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, you put a comment on Facebook, and we will get that comment and we will read it. It all comes up on our screen. And when we see it, if it's something we feel is relevant or important to answer, we will do that. All right, fair enough? Good. Now, somebody asked me if what happens if we get so big on YouTube that I'm making so much money, will I just walk off on the class? What do you think, Naftali? No. The answer is that the main purpose in life is to study Torah, and the YouTube and everything else, that's secondary, and it's nice if the people want to watch from there. But the most important thing is to study Torah and to teach Torah right here in the holy city of Tzfat, the same city that the holy Ari taught Torah in, the same city that the Bet Yosef Karo, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, he was right here a couple, steps away from where we're sitting right now. And so that's why I think this is the most important. Okay? Now, this week, what's going on? This week we are starting a new Mishnah, which means we're starting a new topic in the Gemara. And the topic is surrounded by what? The topic is surrounded by the concept of muksa. By the way, it seems like, do we have a decent connection here? It just keeps on going like this, which means Does that mean that it's not a good connection?
No, the connection's good.
The connection is good. We have to make sure that we... Oh, here we go. All right. Okay. So, where are we again? We're about to begin. We're about to begin the Mishnah, a brand new Mishnah, which is about muksa. Muksa, if you want to tell a Jew something interesting, we always like telling you non-Jews out there that are listening to this, we want to tell you how to speak the Jewish lingo. If you go to a Jew on Shabbat and you say, mukse, what are they going to do? They're going to be like, oh, okay, guess I can't do anything, right? Mukse is a very important word in the Jewish vocabulary for Shabbat. However, it is very often misused. Okay, Reuven, what does the word muksa mean? It's not a fence or a separation. What does it mean? What does the actual muksa mean? Not guarded? What is muksa? Muksa! Huh? Muksa literally means set aside. It's like put aside, which basically means something that you had no intention of using on Shabbat. It's called muksa. Now, a lot of people misuse the term muksa for something that is prohibited on Shabbat. Something that is prohibited on Shabbat is prohibited on Shabbat, but it's not muksa. For example, if somebody says turning on the light is muksa, that's actually a false use of the terminology. Okay? When you use the word muksa, literally, the word means that it's set aside. Muksa is a rabbinic prohibition. It is in a rabbinic establishment. We are going to speak a little bit about muksa in this particular Gemara. We might even repeat what I'm about to say in certain parts of the class. However, I think it's important to know this, because if you know this before going into the class, then it'll be easier to understand the class itself. Okay? So for all you watching out there, listen carefully, but before you listen, make sure you subscribe if you're on Kick, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you are. Hit subscribe and share it with all your friends, because you should be sharing this. Why should you limit this only that you hear and you learn this? You should be able to share this with all your other friends so that they should be able to hear it too. So don't wait. Hit the subscribe. All right, anyways, my class is saying, let's get on. Let's move with it. Stop talking to these YouTubers. We want to talk right now in the Gemara. We want to learn the Torah. We don't want to learn YouTube stuff, okay? That's that. Okay, no problem. All right. Now, the reason why the rabbis established the concept of muksa is as follows, okay? Muksa is, the rabbis basically said that unfortunately around the world there are people called lazy bums, okay? Any of you fit into that category? Don't answer me. What's that? Bums, lazy bums, okay? There's lazy bums out there and they do nothing the entire week. Now, the Torah says that on Shabbat you need to rest. So how does a bum that didn't do anything a whole week, how does he get to rest? How does he get to rest? He has to rest, right? He did nothing the whole week, so how does he rest? That's a good question. Anybody could answer. If you want to type in, if you put in the comments, well, you want to answer the questions, you want to ask another question, you can put it in the comments and you're good to go. But how does a bum that did nothing a whole week, how does he rest on Shabbat?
He works.
He works? But that's not rest. You're saying he's resting from resting by working? Yeah. I don't know if he could do that. That's not necessarily allowed. Huh? It would be cool? No. What's he resting from? Right? Now, so the rabbis, being that they had this internal dilemma of what on earth does a guy do if he didn't do anything a whole week, so the rabbis wanted that Shabbat should be equal for everybody in some way, shape, or form. And therefore the rabbis established the concept of muktzeh. Muktzeh means it's set aside, which means something that you did not intend to use on Shabbat cannot be moved. You cannot touch it. You cannot move it. You have to leave it as is. Okay? What does that mean? For example, let's say there's a stone in your yard. Okay? Don't leave any stone unturned. Okay? Except on Shabbat. If there's a stone in your yard, did you ever intend to use that stone on Shabbat? The seeming answer would be no. You did not intend to use that stone on Shabbat. And therefore that stone is muktzeh. You're not allowed to move it on Shabbat. And the same thing would be with anything that is intentionally put aside for a use that is or intentionally not intended to be used on Shabbat. Not intended to use for Shabbat. That is the best way to describe this. All right, let's continue. Okay, now there is a massive dispute, as is usually the case in Talmud. There's a massive dispute when something is considered muksa. When is something considered muksa? When is it not? Is it something that you didn't intend to use? Is it something you intended not to use? And by the way, listen carefully, there are very big differences. You could intend not to use it, or you could not intend to use it. Okay? Now, in addition, there's certain things that you may have not intended to use it, but in the back of your mind, it would be possible that you would use it. Meaning that subconsciously, in the back of your mind, you think, maybe I would use this. Okay? So that is another category. There's a few categories regarding this, and I don't want to share too many of the categories in details because it will ruin when you actually are learning this in the Talmud. Okay? We are on Talmud page 42b, okay, on Masechet Shabbat, Tractate Shabbat, and we're going to learn some Jewish lingo over here. We're going to learn some language of the Jews, and we're also going to learn some of the laws of Shabbat, okay? In addition, we might actually go into some crazy other discussions like we usually do. As I say, if you come to my Talmud class, you'll learn everything about Judaism and maybe everything else about the whole world. And in the middle, we might put some of the Talmud inside. And by the way, if you think that you have something interesting that you want to share, that you want to ask, pop it into the comments, and there's a good chance that you will derail our discussion into something else. That's, of course, if you're doing this during the live session. I do see there's quite a few people here during our live session, so please participate and comment, ask questions, whatever you'd like. We're going to start. Mas Nisin. Mas Nisin, the holy Mishnah, the Mishnah says as follows: Ein noisen kli tachas haner lekabel boyas hashemen. If you have a candle and the candle is dripping, you're not allowed to put a vessel, any type of vessel, under that dripping oil in order to catch the oil. Okay? Now, again, it does use the terminology oil because in the olden days, candles were usually made out of oil. Today, candles are usually made out of wax, and very often wax also drips. So I would assume that this rule applies to wax the same way it applies to oil. However, the Mishnah is using the terminology oil because that is the normal way they used to use, they used to have candles. They used to have a little oil container with a wick sticking out, and that's the way they used to have a candle for Shabbat. All right? So you're not allowed to put a vessel under the candle in order to catch the dripping oil. You're not allowed to do that. And if you put it there while it's still day, meaning before Shabbat, the reason why before Shabbat is spoken about, we say before Shabbat, we call it while it's still day. Who knows? Naftali, why do we call Shabbat while it's day? Why do we call it that way? Huh? Why do we call before Shabbat while it's still day? You do know, okay, and when I say, you can be like, obvious. What? There you go. So Naftali, he knows that people listening on YouTube or on Facebook, they might not know the rules, and therefore it's important to know that Shabbat, Sabbath, the Jewish Sabbath starts Friday night as soon as it gets dark, and it ends on Saturday when it gets dark, which means the entire Friday we can do whatever we want up until time it gets dark, and then on Saturday night, the second it gets dark, it's no longer Sabbath, we can do whatever we want as well. Okay? Now, that's why the terminology is while it's still day, which is talking Friday while it's still day. If you put a vessel to catch the dripping oil while it's still day, mutter, it's allowed. However, you're not allowed to benefit from that oil once Shabbat starts, obviously till Shabbat ends. Why? Because it is not prepared. Now we're going to go, we say that this oil is not prepared. What does this mean? Okay, you're listening? Ruvain, you're listening? You told me that I have to stick to the Gemara more. Can't get derailed so much. Well, thank God for you. No one's commenting. So if they don't comment, we can't get so derailed. Okay? But if you do, we could get derailed. Anyways, if you light a candle with oil, okay, you light a candle with oil and the oil's dripping. But when you lit the candle with the oil, what was your intention? Was your intention that this oil should be used on Shabbat for your salad? What do you say, Naftali? Depends. You just lit it in a candle. How are you going to use it for your salad if you lit it in a candle? Huh? The oil is muksa. Why? Because the second you light the candle and the oil is in the candle, the oil is intended for the purpose of that fire. It's not there for any other purpose. And therefore, if it drips out of the container of oil, then what's going to happen? It's, okay, so it dripped out. So unfortunately, it didn't make its mark. It didn't hit the goal. Okay, very nice. But it still is something that you did not intend to use on Shabbat. And therefore, it becomes muksa because it was not intended, it was not prepared for use on Shabbat. Now, that is the Mishnah. And as we know, for you people who haven't learned so much Talmud, and for those of you who have learned Talmud, it's important to reiterate this, is that essentially, what is the job of the Talmud? What does the Talmud come to do? What's the job of the Talmud, Naftali? Oh, so he said correctly to analyze the Mishnah. I know a lot of people out there, they actually say that the purpose of the Talmud is to explain the Mishnah. And I always tell my students that is unfortunately a completely messed up and twisted way of thinking. Because if I'm going to explain to you something, I first need to understand it. And if I don't understand it, then I cannot explain it to you. Now, the Gemara approaches the Mishnah as if it doesn't yet understand the Mishnah, and it must analyze what's going on in the Mishnah. Now, the Mishnah said a lot of things that we just quoted, of course, very nice. However, it is important to point out that the Mishnah didn't really give so much explanation. And therefore, the Gemara is going to try to decipher what these actual rules are and aren't.